So it's great to see everybody joining. We're going to start in about a minute, but lovely to see Michelle. Oh, hello, Michelle, waving to you. Good friend of ours, Michelle. Great to see Jan Miller as well. One of my good friends as well, which is great to see you. So we've got Emily here. And there's some people I don't know. I've not met Maisie before. Nice to have Mia, who I think you've been talking to, haven't you, Ashley? We're just going to let a few more people in. Yeah, good to see you, Michelle, and glad that your glasses are now mended. And how is the golf, Michelle? Let us know in the chat box. How is the golf? We will literally get started on the 10 o'clock, right? We have now got it to 10 o'clock. That can only mean one thing. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's great to have you with us. Now, before we get started, just into the chat box. Where are you in the world and what time is it? Where are you in the world and what time is it? Do you think anybody's going to talk to us, Ashley?
Yeah, they're there. I've already had a couple of chats with some people. Nice to say hello to Michelle. You got the sun down there, Michelle?
Yeah, well, no, it's before the wet weather starts. So it's Michelle's in Plymouth. We got Emily in Scotland. We've got Judy in Budleigh Salterton, which is not quite Sidmouth. We've got Gaurav, have I pronounced that correctly, Shailesh, so in India. We've got Erhan in Turkey. We've got Maisie in Essex.
International, including Lancashire.
Yeah, very international. We've got Mia in Wiltshire, which is good. It's, you know, I always promise my guests that when they work with us on a webinar, we will have a proper international audience. And it's great that we've got a proper international audience. And I can see some good friends here. We've got James Hickey, James Dappling, Jeff. Hello, Jeff. Lovely to see you. Oh, there's some good friends that we know here, which is great. Tingyan, you had double dosage of me. Yesterday you were with me, and you're also with me today. So let's just put up a toll. A toll? Poll.
No, we're not charging. It's free.
It's free, yes. Let's just launch the poll. What's your firm's annual turnover? I'd love to know, just to help Shailesh and myself really position this correctly. Because there's no point us talking about, well, if it's only you and nobody but you, this is what you need to do if we've got some bigger firms out there. See, people are voting. Had over half the votes, which is good. Let's see if we can get a few more. This is not a trick question. We never ask trick questions, do we, Ashley? It's not what we do. Going to see if we can get a few more votes in. Because, by the way, this is, if you had a guess, this is going to be interactive. You're going to expect to type things in, talk to us. So let's go 3, 2, 1. Let's end the poll. And, you know, we've got, let's just share the results. And so we've got our normal crowd, haven't we, Ashley, where we've got most people between 0 and a million, with a lot of people in that 50 to 500,000, which is where a lot of our members join us in that kind of space. Great to see everyone. Let's just stop sharing. Now, as this is all about busy season, how are you feeling about it? What describes it best for you? What? Oh, hello, Gordon. You're having double helpings of me as well. I think there are some people that need their head examined. There are a couple that are going for double helpings of me on a webinar. And yeah, how are you feeling about it?
I'm here because it's in the job description.
Yeah, how are you feeling about busy season right now? Let's see what people say. Let's get the last few votes. 3, 2, 1. Am I going to get a few more sneaking in? No. Let's just end the poll, share the results. So we've got a third of you going, everything's fine in my world, not a problem, we're on top of it all. And if that's you, well done. Well, we've got 47% going, we're concerned. We'll be fine with some of it, but actually some of it, no, we've got a compliance backlog. We got 2 of you, and I'm sending out a big virtual hug that I'm not sure if I got the energy to get through it this year. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. Hopefully we're going to inspire you today to how to make sure that it is the best January ever. Right, I think it's time to move on. I've done a bit of mucking about with some polls. So it is not just me today. I'm working with Shailesh Patel, and Shailesh is one of the founders of McAlvin's. Are you a 2 million plus practice, Shailesh?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Yes, we are. We have been for a while.
Yes, so he's both a practicing accountant, he's also the director of GI Outsourcing. Now, we discussed how many busy seasons he's done, but, he's got a reputation to keep up, but modesty forbids us. He looks a lot younger than he actually is, but it's a safe bet to say he's done over 20, and he really did start in practice very young. His parents, what should we say, they made you go out to work very early, didn't they, Shailesh, and practice
Indeed,
as an accountant?
pulpit days, indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the end of today, well, actually by the end of this webinar, we're going to help you really always feel in control of your workload over busy season and just feel confident that every deadline will be hit. We're going to help you prioritize the 4 foundational habits, because these is the fundamentals. And actually, when Shailesh and I were prepping for this, I said, how do you deal with stress? And he said, I don't really get much stress. And I thought, I hate you. But actually, what we realized is he'd got really, really embedded habits that really help him keep on top of what he does and how he does it. And we're going to help you using proven tools and techniques to help pick your mental state, because this is a choice. This really is a choice. And actually, if you choose you're going to have the best busy season ever, you'll probably have the best busy season ever. We're going to give you the confidence to set clients' expectations so they do bring in the information. And we're also going to give you some tips to manage your team so they take on more responsibility and more self-sufficient. Just put your hand up if some of your team are working a lot from home at the moment. Just put your hand up if that's you. Yeah, Emily says that. Judy says that. Barry, yeah, absolutely. Gordon, Maisie. And I've seen your office, Gordon. It's very nice. I particularly want to play on your piano. Hope that doesn't sound rude, actually.
Tinkling the ivories.
Yeah, tinkling the ivories, that sounds even worse. Let's just not go there. You're just going to descend into innuendo. So, question for you. Let's just put up a poll about this. Why is this year's busy season going to feel much harder than normal? Is it about that we've had really high workloads due to COVID-19? Is it about we're worried about the health of the economy going forward? Is it about our team working from home so we've got less control of the workflow? Is it about the clients are still calling us and there's no such thing as a really short phone call at the moment with clients? Is it that, clients getting really nitpicky about stuff and are very quick at the moment to ask for a discount? Is it that resourcing may be a big issue with COVID and seasonal flu circulating and potentially school shut? Which ones are it for you? And this is going to be very interesting what people think of this, isn't it, Ashley? And I think I might take a screenshot of the poll at the end of it. Nice bit of insight coming. And everybody's thinking about it at the moment. We've had half the votes. Let's see if we can get a good few more votes. So we've got something meaningful. There's a real trend here coming. Let's see if I can get a couple more votes. Be nice to me. Let's come on. Come on, you want to. I feel like I'm trying to take a dog for a walk here at the moment. Lots of positive encouragement. There'll be a treat at the end of it if you fill in the poll. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Let's end that poll now. And let's share the results. And it looks like the biggest issue that we all have is about these really high workloads leading into busy season. There's been no let up, no real downtime for the firm. And also there's still getting lots of client queries and concerns that's stopping the team from getting on. And we in our conversations, I know, Ashley, between you and our conversations, the marketplace seems very polarized this year, doesn't it? We've got some practices that are so ahead with their year-end tax returns. In fact, we've got 1 or 2 of our members that are scrabbling around finding things to do. They're 40% up this year. They've got ahead completely, and they're kind of going, right, let's go and proactively call up our clients. And they are just steaming ahead. I know a lot of the firms have taken advantage of the 3-month filing extension to year-end accounts. but I'm also hearing that others are way behind. Charlish, what, dare I say it? Where are McAlvin's on that? Is it going to be really hard this year, or actually have you, as you've a firm, got ahead?
No, we're really pushing ahead. We've kind of ignored the 3-month extension. We've just worked on the basis that the normal filing dates are there, and pushed clients, and it's worked quite well. I think in the past, one of the reasons we're not up to date is we don't badger and push our clients enough or sufficiently to get in the information, and we're really focusing this year on getting the information and pushing on ahead.
Yeah, and interesting, you'll share that, how you targeted the team and the real difference it's made to this year. And as you said, this is probably the first year that you've really been ahead and in control, and we're going to share that a bit later. So why change the status quo? And interesting, I'm going to put it over to you. Why change the status quo to have an easy busy season this year? Because we were talking about it, Charlotte, and a lot of people just go, well, this is how it always is. We're always busy across November, December, January. We always have a hellish time. We're just going to get through it. I've got to launch the poll, don't I? That's a little thing. What is it? What's the benefit for you to actually changing the status quo? And often when we need to change something, we need to know our why. We need to know our reasons. What's in it for you if you actually have an easier busy season this year? Because actually that's something we notice, that often when our members get to their second busy season with us, it's really different for them, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
it's down to mindset, isn't it? Yeah.
And if they actually get to the point where they've got 6 months run up to working with us over busy season, then they find they normally have their easiest busy season ever. It is about mindset, so much of it, but it's also about control of the workflow and being prepared to go and ask for stuff earlier. Let's go and see if we'll get a few more votes. I think people haven't actually thought about, maybe it could be different this year. And I think that's, we get so much into this track of we've always done it this way, it'll always happen this way, etc., etc., etc. We can see if we're going to get a few more votes. Got over half of you voting. And I think everybody's going, actually, I just want all of this. Let's just end the poll. Let's just share the results. And you know what? The biggest thing that's come out is more team morale. Higher team morale. It's going to get better. But pretty much everyone's saying the same thing. I want less stress and anxiety, which is going to help me avoid catching COVID or seasonal flu. Because we remember the year that you and I both had seasonal flu.
Yeah, we did.
Yes. We were grumpy as hell that for 3 months, weren't we, between the two of us? And actually, we probably lost 3 months worth of momentum with that. It definitely set us back massively. We've got more time with the family, higher team morale. Absolutely. Let's just stop sharing that. What's the agenda? Well, we're going to look at your role. And I think it's Shailesh is actually going to say that it starts from the top, having the best, busiest season ever. We're going to look at how to become that ninja at workload planning. We look at how to stay in control, because actually a lot of busy season is about staying in control. It's not necessarily about I don't have that much work to do, about the actual workload. It's about staying in control. We're going to talk about how to train your clients to bring in their information on time. And Shailesh has got a really good perspective on this. We're going to talk about how to get your staff to be more self-sufficient. And we're also going to talk about how to use outsourcing to reduce stress levels over busy season. Right, over to you. What do you want to get out of today's webinar? So into the chat box, what do you want to get out of today's webinar? So Michelle wants ideas. Joe wants help with planning, which is great and lovely. One of our members. Hiya, Joe. We've got Lars, one of our members here. Hiya, Lars. Members always get a bit of a call out. We've got Gordon, Gordon, you're really from the other side of the business, but it's lovely to have you with us. Yeah, we'll, particularly in your tax, we'll give you some tips for how do you maintain that morale when people are working long hours at home. Raj Kern, I'm not quite sure whether we're going to be able to, we won't go through some workflows, but absolutely, if you want to, talk with either Ashley, we've also got Anto from Global Emphasis, it's not Global Emphasis, new brand, GI Outsourcing, my apologies, Shailesh, I'll wipe my mouth out there, rebrand, is also on this, and she can put a link to book time in her diary as well. So James, it's about how do I get better client service through this. Mia wants help in focusing, interested in support. Well, Ashley, I'm sure you're onto that one already. Richard, you know where we are. We've talked lots and lots and lots. We're going to help you get out of that day-to-day and into some strategic thinking. Absolutely. So we will help you with some of those answers. Let's talk about your role. So it's really easy, isn't it, Ashley, to go, oh, woe is me. I'm not going to do this. Year's going to be hell. I can't do it. I'm going to fall ill. And before you know it, you've talked yourself into it. And actually, if we're going to get through it, we have to lead our team. And the first way is we lead ourselves. And when leadership comes in, you've got the positive leadership behaviors, which are the right roads, so taking responsibility, ownership, action, decisiveness. And we are going to hear a little bit later on from Shailesh how his and his fellow directors really took ownership for busy season this year and how it changed. But a lot of the time, we're human. We're very human, and we go down a dead end, which is the negative behaviors. We get distracted. We have excuses. We make excuses. We go in attack and denial. We potentially become dictatorships. And we let our ego dominate. And perhaps we go into no control and we get very drained. So quickly, which ones do you go into? Which ones are the negative leadership behaviors that you go into? Let's just put up the poll. And I know you've got a view, Shailesh, on what you see in the profession, which will come to you in a moment. And you know me, Ashley, I do get a little bit distracted, don't I, and drained. Shiny stuff is good when I'm quite run down. Let's see if we get another few votes. Everybody has got time to think, haven't they, Ashley? 3, 2, 1, let's end the poll. Oh, interesting. Interesting. We've got a big thing for distracted and drained. Those are the big ones that we go into. So Shailesh, which ones do you see in these accountancy firm owners? Because you've got a really strong view on this.
Yeah, well, I'm very surprised. I was going to say it's a dictatorship thing. And the reason being is a question of delegation. Because what I see with a lot of accountants is, oh, I can do this better than anyone else. Oh, it will take me more time to explain it, but it'll be quicker if I do it myself. And if you don't leverage yourself, then what happens is then is the right person doing the right type of work. And one other point I wanted to make about the busy season is if you do get busy, what we end up doing is we end up processing and not advising. I know from practically, I know that when we get into busy season in December and January in the past, we do start making errors. And not only that, we are not in a position to advise people or do any planning for people because we're just so busy trying to get the tax return out. So, yeah, so I would have said the dictatorship thing is a big issue and how we effectively can delegate work and galvanize our clients.
Mm. So, and interestingly, this is probably the year that our clients need advice like no other year, isn't it? Put up your hand if your clients are still needing drip of advice. What am I going to do? You know, absolutely, James, Mia, yeah, absolutely. We've got people going, yeah, we do need. And, you know, just because it's our busy season, they're not going to go away. Particularly with Christmas, it's going to be time to think. And, you know, everybody's kind of really worried. You know, absolutely, Joe, they need that counselling. They need that sounding board. And as Shailesh said, if we're flat out doing compliance, we can't help. Oh, hello, Hitton. Lovely to have you with us. We can't actually be the best accountant to them for what they really need. And interestingly, when you're tired, drained, or overwhelmed, what happens is you actually get less productive, you get less lateral thinking. The part of your thinking brain doesn't actually have the energy to do things differently. And so we go back and do what we've already done. We can't change anything when we're tired. And actually, when you're tired, you stop noticing all the great opportunities to improve things because all you're doing is using your energy to get through the day. As Shailesh says, you can't spot opportunities for clients because you're just processing. You know, you don't have the energy to take the right decision if you have to properly think about it. So you fall into old habits, old ways of doing things. And actually, I don't know about you, but you know, when I'm tired, it's the easiest thing in the world to give into temptation and go, let's have a takeaway, you know, and the kids know this, you know, and they're very quick to pounce on it. Can we have sausage and chips from the fish and chip shop, mummy? You know, very quick to pounce on it. And, you know, and Gordon, are you guilty of that one? Yeah, absolutely. But it's not just about, you know, eating stuff. It's about things like spending a bit too much time surfing the internet. You don't try new behaviours such as delegating more to your team. And I guess the key point I want to make is if you don't look after yourself, you get into that vicious circle where it becomes even harder to stop working those long, long hours. And we've got to break out of it. And breaking out of it means doing something different. And when we talk about self-care, we talk about 4 foundational habits. And if sleep is really the golden one, and that underpins everything. But actually, if you don't get all 4 done, you will then end up being tired, overwhelmed, or drained. Now, Shailesh, you and your business do some special things to help keep the team morale up through busy season. What are some of the things that you and the other directors do?
So what we have a walking group. So every lunchtime, even in the busy season, a group of us will go for a walk around Harrow-on-the-Hill, past Harrow, and it just kind of, I think, fresh air, bit of exercise, and it's community as well, because there's a group of you walking, and we all put on our orange sweatshirts and go for a walk. In the busy season also, for the last week of January, we put on lunches for all our staff. So we get caterers to come in and we all sit down and have lunch together. And again, it's just a question of taking out 40 minutes, an hour. It just takes the stress out the atmosphere. It just relaxes people. And I think the most important thing is visibility and encouragement from the directors, from the partners, to be around, to assist, to encourage. So that's the kind of things we do.
Yeah, and if you're thinking, oh, but my team are working from home, I can't do this catering thing. Ashley, what are we serving at our next team meeting? Bear in mind that we live in 7 different places. What are we serving?
So we're having chocolate brownies, and apparently there's other things other than just chocolate brownies. So, but yeah.
Yeah, and you know, as the owner of the business, I found a supplier that will send chocolate brownies through to my team in there. And we're in 7 different locations, but actually if your staff live near to you, there will be a local caterer that will make up a lunch and deliver it to you. So you could do these little hampers that a local caterer will do. So even if you're not in there. So Shailesh, when we were talking, I said, how do you manage your stress levels? And you turned around at me and said, don't really get stressed. And at that point, I hated you, by the way. Just thought I'd just put it out there. So, and then we really talked about the fact that you have such a strict personal self-care routine. What are some of the things that you do to make sure that you're in that better place?
I don't know if it's that strict, but for me, I just can't function without sleep. So I need a minimum of 8 hours sleep. I get very jealous of these people who say, oh, we function 4 to 6 hours, etc., and are in the office 12, 14 hours a day or whatever it is. But it's not something I can do. Even if I did do it, I'd come in and I'd be in a dazed mood, and I just wouldn't be productive. So for me, it's sleep. If I have a late night, I just wake up later in the morning. I'll come to the office slightly later. I don't mind working late. Exercise, yeah. At the weekends, I'll religiously have a game of golf or have a game of tennis. But I think a lot of it depends on your character. I think it's very personal to every individual, because the self-care has to be enjoyable as well, I believe. So, you know, if you hate exercise, there will be a form that you enjoy, be it walking or whatever, and it's all important, but you have to model it to your personal character and to your circumstances, but you must do it. It cannot just be 100% work.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving the fact that bars and restaurants are closing at 10 and there's not this some need to go out socializing. I mean, I am the hermit, but my sleep has been better than ever. And interestingly, Anto, who's on the chat box, works for GI Outsourcing. She has a power nap often in the afternoon, sort of from her Romanian upbringing. Now, interestingly, Ashley hates exercise. But you swear at Cassandra every morning, don't you, at the moment?
I don't understand how these yoga people can just bend in half. It's crazy. So
Yeah, because you're doing a 30-day yoga challenge with Cassandra, aren't you?
I certainly am. I can highly recommend it as well.
Yeah. So, find what works for you. And actually, the reality is there's a strong link between stress and self-care. So what happens is when the pressure goes up, our performance initially goes up. What people don't realize is the reason why when we wake up in the morning and go ping is because our brain is putting cortisol in our bloodstream. So that's a little bit of one of the stress chemicals. And we get to this optimum stress level because if you don't have enough, you just can't get motivated. When I'm on holiday and really relaxed, I can't be bothered to do most things, but will you get me another cool drink, please? I'm very motivated. So we get to this optimum stress level, and once we've got past it, we actually get into where we start to get exhausted, and it's too much stress. Then we go to the point where we're into burnout. And what happens is what people do is, and particularly the more senior they get, it's not that they have less pressure to deal with, it's they have better coping mechanisms to mitigate that stress. And we've just heard about how Shailesh does some of those things. The reality is the coping mechanisms to help you mitigate that stress all come under the self-care, those foundational habits: sleep, good quality food, exercise, recharge time. If you let any of those slip, that is what's going to reduce your ability to function at a high level when the stress and the pressure goes up. And it's really, really important. And what happens is if you've got these high stress levels, particularly a lot of adrenaline through your system, is adrenaline initially actually improves your immune system, because adrenaline is your body's means of coping when there's a saber-toothed tiger about to take a bite out of your arm. It takes a bite out of your arm. Your immune system increases a tiny bit to help you ward off the infection from the open wound. But as soon as you get to the point where it's maybe the weekend or the end of busy season, you go on holiday, that artificially raised adrenaline means that your immune system plummets. So if you've been working, flat out for a long time, your immune system is going to plummet. Your immune system is going to plummet just at the point where we've got seasonal flu circulating and COVID-19. And I think that's probably what happened to us, actually, wasn't it? We'd been working really hard when you joined, and it just hit the two of us, just absolutely hit us. And, and this is my wake up call to you. If you don't want to be ill with something that could be really nasty this year, this is your moment. This is the sign that you've been waiting for to actually think about doing something differently. So here's some ideas about how to minimize your anxiety and stress levels. Have that up-to-date plan. The reality is stress and anxiety is always future focused. So that up-to-date plan of what really needs to be done really does help you reduce that stress and anxiety, because you know exactly what needs to do. Mindfulness, whether it's, meditation, yoga, or just being, you can have a mindful walk. I've realized when I go for a walk, I switch into a mindfulness moment. It grounds your thinking in the present, which switches off that small voice of doubt and the anxious, stressful thoughts. But also choosing choosing your mental state and how you let yourself react just makes a massive difference to your day. Now, Shailesh, I have to say, I was inspired when you spoke to you. I did hate you, but I was inspired. And so what are some of the things you do to personally minimize your anxiety and stress levels in busy season?
So I think one of the reasons I sometimes get stressed is if I've got too much to do, i.e. there's too many things on my list. So for example, if I've got 100 emails in a day, for some reason I won't say I get into a panic, but it's unnerving. It can get, and then what happens is I just try and delete them or fend them off or respond to them as quickly as I can and just try and reduce that list. So if you just bear that analogy, I think what happens is in a business season, you've got 400 tax returns or whatever it is to do. So you start thinking about that and you start feeling stressed because I think it's an element of control. You feel that possibly you're out of control or you're not in control. So I think the way I found a way around that is that take 5 minutes, prioritize. Just take 5 or 10 jobs that you need to do in a day. Even though they're on my task list, I'll write them down on a piece of paper and leave it on my desk. I will then just tackle one by one. Just take the first one and ignore anything else that is going around me and just tackle it and finish it. And something that I think would have taken me an hour, maybe longer, it actually only takes 15 minutes. We sometimes, by putting things off, we start dreading it and we think it's going to take longer. So it's a question of bringing things back into control, doing things methodically, and just focusing. That's how I try and achieve things and get them done.
Yeah, and Silas, yesterday when I had 5 or 6 things to do, I heard your voice in my ear, and I was like, finish the one thing, get it, put it onto the team task management system, so it's there, it's done. Ashley, that may have been my little Loom video showing the new board, so we can update each other on our weekly plans. I had Silas in my ears, and it was right. Finish it. Do not start anything else. You know what? It helped. It really did help. So how do you actually plan your day? And so I'm just going to ask people. I'm just going to go in and which of these productivity tips do you do? Be interesting to see which ones people do. I'm a bit disappointed there's people not doing their daily operational huddles with the team. You know, when we talk to our members, don't we, Ashley? The biggest thing that helps them feel in control in busy season, reduce their stress levels, is the daily operational huddles. It's the one thing they all talk to us about, isn't it, Ashley?
I was actually chatting to a new member yesterday, and he's just brought it in, and he said it's just for me. It's great, he said.
Yeah. So, you know, we do it asynchronously, don't we, via our workflow system, and it really helps because I know where my team are, what they're thinking about, how they're feeling at the start of the day, and all of this sort of stuff. Right, I think I've got my last few votes. Let's just share the results. And the biggest thing people do is they plan in what they want to achieve each day. And I know that's something you do very religiously, Shailesh. So interestingly, there's not. I'm very pleased to see that 42% take a social media break, which is great to see. Absolutely great to see, because that is the. It was described in a book that I was reading, the infinity pools of distraction. Social media is there. It's the email notifications type stuff. It allows you to just go into those infinity pools of distraction. Interestingly, a third of people allow 60 minutes of processing email once a day. This is what I struggle with. I do not have time. I don't like doing my email. I hate doing my email. And I don't allow enough time to do it. As a result, it just builds up and up and up, and I miss things. So yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to move on. Just very conscious of time. Some of the tips. What are your tips to minimize interruptions into the chat box? You know, this is some of the things our members do. Call answering service, particularly in busy periods. So there's always someone answering the phone, but they're polite. We use religiously, don't we, Ashley, the electronic diary booking system. We use Acuity, but a Calendly is a great system. People use it all the time. You know, the out of office email particularly is really, really good when you're in a very busy season. Gordon also does the set out of office saying we'll respond within 24 hours. Joe says the out of office email. You know, this is a big one for us, isn't it, Ashley, that we're trying to get better at as a team. So in the daily operational huddles, actually getting people to say, what help do you need to progress your workload? You know, absolutely key. What help do you need to progress your workload? And then diarize that help it's needed. By the way, if anybody wants to get rid of their Apple Watch because of the notifications, you know where I am, by the way. I'll quite happily take it off your hands, you know, take one for the team. Yeah, and the big one is switch off all notifications. You know, I cannot believe my husband has on his personal email a little ring on his phone that says, yeah, I have an email. I'm just like, I go crazy. You know, 100 emails later, my phone might actually stop kind of going, just like, can't do that. You know, the big thing. And I love that, Michelle, putting a timer on and not looking at the phone until it goes. And yeah, and that's a big one. I will often use something called brain.fm. rain.fm, I'll just put the thing, which is a great tool that slightly hypnotizes yourself, and it helps you just get really focused. And I'll put that on for an hour sometimes, and actually when I know I've been struggling to focus and I put that on and I do the hour of deep thinking, I'm shattered at the end of it. So I know that I've really done that thinking. And I agree with you, Lars, people should really watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix. It's one of the ones I need to watch. I don't have Netflix, so I'm not sure how I'm going to watch it, but I'm sure I'll find time. Absolutely. And it's a really great tip, Ashley, really focusing on how can I reduce screen time on my phone or my iPad each week, and just do a little bit each week. And before you know it, you're going to be far more focused on the stuff that really matters. Right. I think it's time to look at a ninja at workload planning. Just before we go any further, into the chat box, what's one thing you picked up so far? What's one little nugget, one thing you want to take forward? Into the chat box. We know Jo is going to turn off her notifications. Michaela's going to plan better. That's good. We're going to come on to some planning, actually, Michaela, and Dan can help you with that. Oh, James wants brownies. Are you going to send brownies to your team? James, there's lots of companies that will do brownies via post. There's loads of them. If you just put letterbox brownies, there's about 6 or 7 companies.
James is up in North Devon. There's some great bakers up there, so I'm sure.
Yeah, a local business may do it for you. Right, Joe's going to make sure she plays tennis in busy season. Go for it, Joe. One of our members, last busy season, maintained his weekly run all the way through busy season. Michelle must try mindless brownies. They're hard to come by. Yeah, James, go to the vintage tea shop next door. You never know. They might actually package up some stuff and send them to your team members. Absolutely. And I have to say, chocolate brownies is a conversation that is, there's a bit of bonding in the team, isn't it? We've got one member of the team, dare I say it, who does not have her brownies traditionally. She's having cookie core brownies, and we're all looking at her going, why? But it's a nice bit of team morale, isn't it? Or what cake are you going to choose? One of our team members is driving over to France, so he's not going to be there for the team meeting. So she's getting her brownies in advance because it's nice to do. Now, when it comes to planning, we often hide away from the problem. We hide away and it just gets bigger and bigger. You bury your head under the sand, it just gets bigger and bigger. And only when you know what needs to be done, you can actually do something about it. Now, Charlotte, you and I have worked off and on for a little bit too many years because it ages me. You don't look older than the day I started working with you or part of one of your businesses. Charlotte, you always have your finger on the pulse about what needs to get done. What is it that you're doing, particularly either with the outsourcing or McAlvin's, that, what is it you do that helps you reduce your stress levels?
Again, it all comes back to communication and linked to your huddles, basically. You just need to be in control of the workflows, talk to people, see where the blockages are, help people. But it's communication every day, talk to them. We get a report each day, how much work is in the pipeline, what any issues. And it's a constant. You have to keep on top of that. You can't just assume things are working. You do need to just keep an oversight and assist.
And interestingly, very often we only plan our workload, out to busy season monthly. We go into busy season, it's more like weekly, but actually we should be planning it daily. If there's a lot of work to get through, it needs that daily focus. And so some of the things is, very much about, progressing, looking at some of that progress stuff. So for example, how many self-assessment tax returns need to be completed by when and by who? How many March year-end accounts work need to be completed by when? Monitor these KPIs weekly and take corrective action. Now, I know that GI, when they have their busy season, really pride themselves on delivering. How do they keep that such a tight control on meeting those deadlines?
So each day we have a daily capacity and resource planning meeting by the senior management in GI. When work is given to GI, we have committed delivery dates to clients. If we can't, and look, we're not always 100% perfect, there's issues. If we can't meet those deadlines, we always pick up the phone and speak to the client. And if necessary, we will reallocate or the work or do whatever is necessary to achieve the expectations. I think what we do say to clients is, look, you've got to keep realistic expectations. We will always do our utmost best. But what I see with my peers as a profession is we're very poor at setting expectations with our clients. You know, if our clients miss a deadline to bring their information in, there's no consequence. But it's almost as if, as a profession, we train into bad habits and make our lives a lot easier. Also, that we can proudly state that we deliver great client service. So, you know, we just need to balance that out a bit. It is client education, communication and control.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I hear so many people that pride themselves on our flexibility and being responsive, and you're like, why did you chase 5 times and then spend, you know, have a number of 16-hour days in the run up to the deadline because this client couldn't actually sort themselves out? Now, Shailesh, you set a target this year, didn't you, for McAlvin's about your tax returns? Do you want to just tell us a little bit more on the difference that it's made?
Yeah, so we said we wanted to complete 70% of all tax returns by end of October, compared to doing 70% of our tax returns in most probably December and January. So we're not there, but I do believe we will hit 70% by end of November. So that's an improvement.
It's massive. It's massive. And as you say, this is now going to give your team at McAlvin's time to not be processing it across November, December, January. It's actually going to give them time to bring their clients, to speak to their clients. I mean, one of our members, I mean, is literally generating an extra $5,000 of ad hoc client work every month because he's got his team ringing them up because they're ahead on their tax returns. And they're doing a lot of client care, saying, how are you doing? Is there anything we can help you with? How's things? And it's just because they've got ahead. There is a real commercial incentive to get ahead. Now, of course, practice management systems can really help, but of course, you've got to set them up correctly. You know, we found in the club, Ashley, it typically takes about a year, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's not an overnight thing.
No. And even with our own business, we're getting there now from starting in April, but we're still having to remind ourselves that no, we don't go to a spreadsheet. We work out how we put it into one system so we have one single source of truth. And a big thing is, do not work off the regulatory deadlines in your practice management system. Work off internal deadlines. So set a deadline of year-end accounts will be done within 3 months of a client's financial year end, because that actually means that you're turning it around properly, which is about good client service. You can have meaningful conversations with clients about what's going on, and you know, you can get on and talk about the proper stuff. As I said to one of our members, that if you're truly client centric, you are not filing at the deadline. You should be ahead of what you're doing. You know, use dashboards. But actually what you want to do is make sure you're process mapping your year-end accounts process to set up the workload in the system, ditto for the tax returns. You know, the great stuff about things like Center, which our members get 10% discount on, is you get a visual at a glance planning board. A lot of our members use XPM, and they use Trello in conjunction with that to get the visual at a glance planning board. So they can just clearly see this is what they've got to do. And actually the key is with the practice management system, it's getting it set up so you've got an at a glance, this is what this individual needs to do. So how do you stay in control of what needs to be done by when? And so, you know, we use in our business, but many of our members use this, don't they? They use this rhythm meeting, so the daily huddle. And actually one of our members said he had his best January ever because of this meeting. That and a new practice management system, and they said, you know, the daily huddle, and if you want the agendas for the daily huddle, the weekly operational meeting, just drop a note to Ashley, he'll send it through to you, just put it on the chat box. Is that daily huddle, you know, that GI use very successfully for their business. We also use, most of our members now use it, don't they, Ashley, where it's about what is going to get done by the end of the day. And we're going to update our practice management system so it is up to date. I'm going to find that the hardest, aren't I, Ashley? Yeah, Michaela, it's in the membership site. We'll get the weekly report sent to you. we are getting really hot on, we will update our practice management system. So we now all have a little column that says at the end of the week, this is what I've done for the week. This is what I'm going to achieve next week. This is the help I need. And I fully updated the practice management system. And I'm going to be the one that struggles the most with that, I can promise you. But also the weekly operational meetings. You know, use them to plan both the daily stuff, but root cause problems and delays, rejig workloads, look ahead. You know, your visual planning board is not just there as a point in time. It's there to actively do stuff. And yet we also have a weekly report on what work they need to be done as well. The other thing is, you know, Shailish, this is a bone of contention in your firm, isn't it? How do you get your team to update the practice management system? Because if you're honest, you're struggling with it. What are you working on?
Yeah, so we use Iris Practice Management, and for every client we've got these job tasks set up. So then we can run reports to give us the status of anything. Basically, it's very flexible. But the issue is that if staff do not update job status, it's like, oh, the records have come in, or the work has been done, or the work needs review, then the reports you get out are meaningless. So I think if you're smaller, you can manage it and get over it. But as you become larger, you need to have that system in place. And our biggest issue is staff not updating it. It really is. So what you have to do, and ultimately what we've had to do this year, is police that system, and then to a degree name and shame people who don't update the task. But we just have to enforce it. And if we constantly enforce it, I'm pretty sure for after 3-4 months, then people will automatically, routinely update their tasks.
Yeah, it just has to be. You just have to crack the whip and explain the importance of this. So how do you stay in control of your workload? Well, we're finding we're in this journey now, aren't we, Ashley, with dashboards and reports, so that you can see at a glance exactly the state of your firm's workload and capacity. We're a big believer into adding some contingency into your plans, which is why we often recommend our members talk to your team, Shailish, on outsourcing. So they've always got a bit of back pocket time. They can always outsource a couple of year-end accounts if they need to, or even more if they want to. But it's also about being really clear on how much capacity have we got. We've got some members that have just actually said, I'm not taking on any new work between now and the end of February. We've got enough. We have to service our current clients. And this is one of our members that's renowned for always bringing on new business. But the next thing is set deadlines for your clients, and also tell the persistent offenders the implications of being late and stick to those. So we have one of our members who's, is it fair to say, Ashley, that he's a very straight talking northerner that says it as it is? And he basically said to them, if you do not get your tax return to us by this date, it will go to the back of the pile, and you will miss the deadline, it'll be filed late. And he literally had clients coming up to him, sending their information and said, I know I'm going to have a fine because it's going to be filed late. But they got it, and they're not going to be late again this year. So how do you get, oh, I think I've done that. So some of the things that you can also do is you can use automated email notifications. That helps. You can, you can explain what will happen if clients don't bring those things in on time, and stick to your expectations. You can ditch clients if they're persistent offenders, the D clients. You can allocate a resource. That can be an external virtual assistant to have the responsibility to be the polite Rottweiler. And Shailish, you talked to us very briefly about one of the things you're really trying to push forward in your firm is that everybody hits the phone.
Yeah,
you want to very briefly give us 30 seconds on that?
Yeah, just pick up the phone, be it a director or be it staff, and badger them. So there is an element of reluctance from certain staff members to picking up the phone, but I feel that that is the best way. So if I rang a client and said, look, I really need your tax information, I really need it by next week, well, most will give it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I may have to ring once more, or you get one of your staff members. But I do believe that personal touch is more effective than, say, repetitive email reminders, automated email reminders.
Yeah, there's a place for the automated email reminders. They're good to get people ready, but if you've got a persistent offender, just sending them another email is not going to help. So how do you actually get your staff to be more sufficient? Well, we find that often it's about learned helplessness. If someone comes to you and you always give them the answer, then you train them to always give you the answer. And so you've actually trained in the learned helplessness. So it's really important that you learn about delegation, that you don't operate a blame culture, that you praise staff for taking the initiative. And we talk a lot about this coaching approach, don't we, Ashley, where where instead of just answering the question, actually using questions to challenge them, to help them find their own answer. I know that's something you do, Shailish, but also it's not about just going, you either do it yourself or I do it. Be prepared to work with them to do it. And it's really important in your head to know that you're investing time, not thinking, oh, it's just going to be quicker if I do it. What we try to do is building, as you mentioned, Shailish, this leverage. But another thing is, do your staff know what you expect from them? And interestingly, most of our members, when we ask them this question, they say no when they join us, don't they? And that's why in the club we've got exercises that you as a team can work out what your values and what does it mean and how do we work in this business, which is essential, isn't it, Ashley, for recruitment? You know, and in fact, the first interview anybody into our business has is a values-based one, isn't it? And it's not with me, it's with you and other members of the team of actually, can they work with Heather? it's
We've
really
interviewed hundreds.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got sample job descriptions. We've got the weekly workload report. We've got blank performance and development plans. We've got all of this stuff in the membership library. But also, it's not just about updated role descriptions. Are you having those regular conversations about targets, objectives? Do staff know how their role fits into the bigger picture for their firm? You know, do you all talk about what does your value mean in practice? It's all very well knowing that you'll act with integrity and be client first, but what does that really mean in practice? You know, does your firm have a culture of regular feedback? This is all essential. Do you sit down with people regularly? So all of my team of my key reports with me sit down with me once a week. Right, I think it's over to you, Shailish, to ask me when you want to change over the slides. But, you know, outsourcing is a great way of increasing your capacity in your busy season. So do you want to just talk a little bit about what does outsourcing mean if you choose GI?
Sure. So I'm sure all our participants are aware of outsourcing and the various offerings that are out there. So very briefly, I'm fortunate enough to be a practicing accountant as well as a founder and director of Global Emphasis, which was set up over 20 years ago. In the old days, we were actually literally shifting boxes from one place to the other. Why outsource? Again, it really depends on what you want to do. Do you want a modern, forward-looking practice? Staffing models have changed. And I wouldn't just say, whilst there are cost advantages, of course, you shouldn't just do it because it's cheaper. I don't believe that's the right motive for coming into outsourcing. It's an extra arrow to your armory, effectively. You can use as much or as little as you like. You can build it into your long, medium, short-term strategies. We're very flexible. We will work in the way that you want us to work with you. But the key is that for it to work very well, we do have to work as a team, as part of your team. We are rather than a normal supplier-customer relationship, we do need to be treated as a quasi-staff member. It will work the best in that respect. If we move on to the next slide, getting started. How do we start? Normally, people are anxious or have some concerns, so we always start with a trial job. We'll do a free trial job for everyone to see the quality of the work, because we pride ourselves on quality. Because we may do 10 good jobs. If we do one bad job, everyone focuses on the bad job. So quality is key for us. It may take a little bit longer. It may be a little bit more expensive than our competitors. But as I just want to reiterate, quality, we have our internal quality control, reviews, and then the job comes out to you. So identify the jobs that potentially you wish to be outsourced. it's key that in your organization you have one member of your team who is the outsourcing champion, because we have then point-to-point contact. We can liaise with them, develop best practice for you and us, and then we set up the systems accordingly. You send over the jobs you want doing and timescales and the budgets. You effectively set the budgets for us. Obviously, if we don't believe we can do it within that budget, we'll come back to you. And most importantly is you must give us feedback on each and every job, because with that feedback we improve our knowledge, we improve on what you expect from us, and we aim to and strive to deliver a better job, better service to you. Realities. Communication is key. We have many clients who just throw us the work and never really talk to us. That's not ideal. The better the instructions and information, the better the job. Feedback, as I've mentioned, is key. We need to understand your expectations and how you want things. We've come across cases where people are trying to skimp on software licenses, which means that we may be able to log in, but then an extra colleague who needs to log in to do the work or quality control can't log in, so then the job takes longer. As I said, member of your team, key. Initially, the first month or so, it does take time to bed in a relationship, the style of working, the difference for you and us. But in the long run, it really does pay off. Cost, yes, as I've mentioned, there are many models. We can, depending on volumes, you could have a dedicated resource which just works on your jobs, or it's as and when you send us jobs and there's bits in between. So really everything is flexible, and we will model a contract that works for you. And basically we do make mistakes at times, like your staff members. We do make errors, but without a doubt we try and minimize those, and actually we're very good at that. But sometimes, yeah, it's never 100% perfect job, but it is pretty good. Yeah, I've got to say it's a pretty good job.
I think just before we go into the next one, let's just do a quick poll. And what do people feel about outsourcing? Be just interesting to see what the audience is. What do you really feel about it? So we'll get a few more votes in. And let's go 3, 2, 1. Interestingly, we've got 42% curious about it, which is good to know. And Anto will just put our email into the chat box. And Anto is a great person. A lot of I think it's about 20% of our members have used GI in the past and say very, very good things about GI. So, the way we see it, this may be easy to give you a bit of external credibility, is we know that GI are not the cheapest. As you say, we're not the cheapest, but pretty much our members actually say, yeah, wow, the work papers, they come better than what we do it. And that's not just once, that's twice, 3, 4 times that we hear this. We love the fact that you've got Anto and Yarmila in the UK, so that you've got a UK contact as well as an Indian contact as well. And I know a couple of your clients have taken up the option to visit the offices in Mumbai, which is brilliant. I still haven't been there yet. But yeah, no, the other thing is, do you want to say a little bit more about the free trial, Shailesh? Because I know it's part of your investment in the client, and I know our club members get a credit to use with you. I can't remember the exact figures, but they get a credit to use with you because it's about a journey of learning, isn't it, from both sides? So can you just say a little bit more about the free trial?
Yeah, sure. So really, when people come, they don't know what to expect. So what we do is offer a free trial for a reasonable job, and we will then prepare a complete working file, year-end accounts, etc., for your review and consideration, and also how long it's taken or how much that would have cost. So before you even commit, you will understand the product, the quality, and the cost. And in reality, then it's up to you then to make a decision. I'd be surprised if you didn't say, yes, it's something worthy of consideration. Yeah, it's as simple as that, really.
Brilliant. Fab. And really, we've got a minute time for us to summarize, but very much your busy season starts with you. And just quickly, Anto's reminded me that the members of the club, they get £400 credit towards their first few jobs with GI. So you can really test out GI with confidence. So having a best season, we've really talked about it. It starts with you. We heard about how Shailesh had sort of said, right, we're changing this in our firm. We will have 70% of our tax returns done by the end of October, instead of 70% of our tax returns done in December and January. Joe, no, I don't think you've missed anything, but Ashley's always there, or Val, to help you. It is about prioritizing your self-care. It is about choosing that attitude. Remember, you're going to go down the right road, or you're going to go down a dead end. You're going to let yourself get distracted and drained. It is about setting that plan and completion targets for your firm's workload. We heard how GI, which is all about lots of workload going through and churning it through, that they have those daily meetings to manage capacity and resource. And it's the same for our members that do it. They say it's amazing. We'll come on to your question very shortly, Jeff. But also outsourcing is a great way of servicing those peaks and troughs. So a question for you, Shailesh, from Jeff. And any questions, please put them in the chat box. Does GI dial into the zero system maintained by the accountant, where the accountant does the bookkeeping? What about when the client does their own zero bookkeeping? Does GI dial into the client's systems? What happens then?
Simple answer, yes and yes. We will do whatever is required, whatever the client wants, and we have that capability to do that.
Yeah. My understanding is ideally you should, in your engagement letters, have something about we'll use third-party contractors, something like that. If you don't want to go very public with the fact you're using outsourcing, the best thing you can do is set up an email address called bookkeeping@firm-name. And then if the client maintains their own Xero or QuickBooks, you can ask them to give access to that, to say it's an email address that we will use to get access so that we can complete your year-end accounts. And of course, bookkeeping at myfirmisamazing.com is the email address that GI will log in at, and that's what they do. Any more questions? Any more questions? I don't think I have any more questions. So I'm just going to say thank you to Shailesh, because I know that being on a webinar is not your normal habitat. You're normally very good at delegating and finding other people to do it, but you got thrust into the spotlight, and I think you've brought some great real world examples.
Thank you. Yeah,
okay,
I was say thank you, everyone, and if anybody does want to speak to you on anything, then please don't hesitate to contact me.
Yeah, absolutely, Anto. Jeff, have a chat with Anto. It's great with that. And if you want to have a chat with Ashley, you can grab 10 minutes with him using the link that's in there. He's always happy to talk to people, discuss growth issues, systems, workforce planning, all of this sort of stuff. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you all soon. And thank you and goodbye. It's me trying to stop it. Oh, I don't know any shortcuts. You know when you can't find the right button?